Hey guys, wanted to give you a quick instructional video here about one of this week's assignments because this is the first time we're seeing new material. Sorry for the shaking there. My kids must be doing some gymnastics or something. Anyway, I'll get them later. So which one is it? It's the Unit 6 practice free response question. It is a confidence interval, so that's not new. The only difference this time is that it is a sample mean instead of a sample proportion. So what does that question look like? And how do I know it's different? Well, when I read it, it's asking for a 95% confidence interval. That's not different. But here, if you look at it, we're dealing with a mean price, right? How do I know it's not a proportion? Well, it says mean instead of proportion. We also are given a statistic here, the sample mean, right, and the sample standard deviation. Okay, so when I talk about a parameter, it's not P anymore, it's mu, right? We use this symbol now. So that's the parameter, that's the population mean. Okay, that's what we're trying to estimate using the confidence interval. But when I construct a confidence interval, right, we want to talk about the confidence interval either by name or by formula. And since we show the work here, we use the formula. We're going to be using the means from our sample. So what do those look like? Well, I've attached a cram sheet for you here on this post. It's a PDF, so if you want a Word document, just let me know. It's got some good stuff on Chapter 1 and Chapter 2. Chapter 3 stuff is here. We said duffs instead of doffs, but that's okay. You can use this, right? You don't have to memorize this paper anymore. You can actually use this. That's why I'm sending it out to you. It does not have anything on probability or Chapter 4, which is experiment and sampling. So don't look for that stuff here. We'll have some other stuff to help us out with that. But it then jumps into confidence intervals. Okay, and confidence level, what did we talk about with those two things? And then the formula. So this is the formula that you already know, right? This thing, this p hat plus c star, that whole thing, right? So that's great. The other thing that is new now is this guy, right? The mean instead of proportion. And what does that look like? It looks like this, okay? So we look at the differences. That is the sample mean, that symbol. It's T star instead of Z star. And then the standard deviation or the standard error is this formula. That's sample standard deviation over the square root of n. And how do I get T star? What's the difference between T star and Z star? Well, being means, I don't necessarily have to have a sample that's as big as I do for a Z calculation. Okay, I can use a T calculation if my sampling distribution is already considered to be normal. And the way to get a T is you have to actually get degrees of freedom. So that's what DF stands for, degrees of freedom, and you want to show that work. It's the sample size minus 1. It's like you're taking away 1 just for like kind of to save for any error. Okay, so then when we go to this table, I'll attach this also. When we go to this table, you go through and you have a column now. So when we were doing Z star, we were looking at our confidence level here, okay? And we were just going off of the bottom row. But for degrees of freedom now, for means, you have to look at this column. So let's say I had a sample size. In this case, let's go back to our problem. We've got a sample size, how much? 105. Okay, that's our n. So when I do my calculations here, my df is going to be 105 minus 1, which is 104, right? So you can do that calculation. You go to your table, So let's take a look at the table now. And the degree of freedom I'm looking for is 104. That's this column, right? And the confidence level was 95. So I've got the confidence level here, okay? All right. And the degree of freedom is 104. Now, there's no 104 here. And when that happens, you actually go to the next number down. I'm not rounding up. I'm going to use 100. So we're going to use 100 here, okay? Wish I could highlight, but I can't. And then line that up with 95. So the T star for a degree of freedom of 100 or 104, right? But we use the 100 row. At 95% is 1.984. So it's a little bit larger of a critical value to account for the sample size. All right. The larger the sample size gets, the closer you are to the Z-star calculation. Okay. So that's how you deal with degrees of freedom on this and do your calculations. Always reach out with questions. Use that other video that I linked into the instructions to get a full kind of rundown of and another set of practice on this so that you have more of a reference. And always reach out. All right, I'm going to go get my kids making all that noise. See you guys.